Well, it's such an honor to be here and to be asked to give the keynote on the 40th anniversary of Veterans for Peace, 40 years. That's huge. I know because I'm 40 years. And why is it that VFP has been able to endure and sustain a monumental achievement of being a 40-year organization? And it's not just because of this, but a big part is because the heart of this organization is those of you who have been active for much longer than 40 years in the heroic and history-making struggle of the Vietnam era, which will be studied and revered forever in our country's history. Veterans of the fight against the dirty wars in Central America, through the Gulf War, through the 9/11 era, VFP represents a continuity of struggle, the continuation of the tradition of veterans organizing. And why is this so powerful? I mean, we're in America, and really, when you think about it, America has an official religion, and that official religion is militarism. It's everywhere. I see it everywhere. I can't stop seeing it wherever I am. But it's presented in a particular way. The religion of America and militarism is that you see veterans and you see military equipment, and it's used to enforce and advertise a nationalism and a jingoism and support for war. In our society, they want to see veterans a lot, but they don't often hear from them. And why VFP has power is because we turn that religion on its head. We say, you want to hear from us, here's what we have to say. And there is great power and gravity in being able to flip over what this country tries to use to justify so many actions around the world. And you have fought for 40 years during upsurges and during crises. The invasion of Iraq, the upsurges of 2020. VFP was there in the streets, not just there, but playing a leading role, playing a significant role. But you've also been there consistently when it was hard, in the downturns, in the lulls. I mean, we had 8 years of Obama, which was a tough period to do anti-war organizing. But you didn't relent. You were there. You kept the flame alive. What did you accomplish in these 40 years? Of course, there's the big being a footnote in history, being making history through that entire 40 years, and being there in what will be seen in textbooks and studied for generations to come. But you didn't just make history, you kept a flame alive that's going to continue to make history. Many people might not know this story, but how I first found VFP was I had just got out of the Army. I didn't know there was an anti-war movement in 2005. And one of my first weeks on my college campus after getting out, someone gave me an anti-war leaflet for a protest. And I said, oh, there's other people against the war. That's cool. And so I knew that there was this demonstration happening in D.C. It was a 2006 very cold march on the Pentagon in March. Anyone remember that one? I was there for that. And I didn't know there was any veterans in the anti-war movement. I didn't even know there was an anti-war movement. I definitely didn't know there was veterans in the anti-war movement. My only frame of reference for a veterans anti-war struggle was I had seen the movie Born on the 4th of July. And at the end of that movie, Ron Kovic wore his Class A jacket to a demonstration. And so I said, I'm gonna do what Ron Kovic did in that movie, and I'm gonna wear my Class A jacket to this demonstration. And I deployed with a unit called the 173rd Airborne Brigade, and in the Army, the unit you deploy with, you wear the patch on your right shoulder forever. And so I wore my Class A jacket that had my 173rd combat patch on it. And I drive up from South Florida, long drive up to Washington, D.C. with a caravan of other students from my school. And I get out of the car, and I walk into the crowd, and the first thing I see is a man with a Class A jacket with a 173rd combat patch on his shoulder. And that was Elliot Adams. And I couldn't believe it. And I just ran up to him and I hugged him. And that was a powerful moment for me. And from that moment on, Veterans for Peace and your members became mentors of mine as a young, angry veteran just entering the movement. And so many teachers I met in VFP who have made me the person that I am today. People like Jerry Condon. Did a lot of fun stuff together. Tara Koff. Mike Ferner. Brian Wilson. Ann Wright. Pat Alviso. Bill Perry. Too many to name. If I didn't name your name, it's because I didn't have you on the list, but I'm running out of time here. But these are names that will always be with me. We've been together a long time, and it feels deep and profound to be with you here again. I learned from so many of you, protested with so many of you, done outreach with so many of you, got arrested with so many of you, made a lot of trouble with pretty much everyone in this room, really. But not just me. An entire generation. I know that Iraq Veterans Against the War and all of the important organizing that happened during the Bush years and beyond of Iraq veterans would not have been possible without the mentorship and support and guidance of Veterans for Peace and the critical role you played in the creation and success of IVAW. They didn't have to start from scratch. They had you. So many key figures from the Bush era and those who remain in the movement today are due to the work of VFP. And it would have been enough for your legacy to just build this new generation of fighting anti-war veterans and ended there. But look around this room now. We have veterans here who just got out of the military 3 weeks ago, who are still in the military. People like Joy and Juan, who risked so much to do what was right. And, you know, it's easy to kind of in the moment be like, yeah, these are cool actions that people like Joy and Juan did and stood up. That's cool that that happened. But when you really think in the mirror of history, these are stands that will live forever. And those people are here in this room with you. They're not anywhere else right now. People like Heather, who I had the privilege to get to know. He comes from a long lineage of liberation fighters. You know, could have probably worked wherever she wanted. You know, all the big nonprofits with deep pockets wanting her there, but she chose to be here because of your moral clarity and the place that you have created. People like Tyler from San Diego. Where's Tyler at? Tyler, who just got out 3 weeks ago, you know, he had about 4 months left on his contract as a Navy corpsman and decided in that last 4 months he was going to drop a CO packet, not because he knew they had time to process a packet, because he wanted everyone above him in the chain of command to have to read it, and everyone below him in the chain of command to know that they could do the same thing. People like Tyler and Heather and Joy and Juan and all the, you know, we had this meeting of the post 9/11 Veterans Caucus today. It was about 25 people. It wasn't mostly white people, and it was probably about half women as well. And this is an exciting thing, but these people are here, and you weren't allowed to see it. We called it our secret kids club meeting, and if you tried to come in, I'm sorry that we kicked you out. But all of these people are here today, another generation, because of the space that you have created that has drawn those people in. You have not just helped raise a second generation of fighting veterans, but a third generation, and I think even a fourth, arguably. We're really looking at the age range. Not just those of you from the Vietnam era, but everyone who has joined along the way, even if you contributed just a little, you have played a part. Some of you have made this your life's work, which has been the lifeblood of this organization. But all of you have contributed something. And you know, many of us have different political views on things. We probably don't agree on everything. But what has united us is a commitment to peace and justice. And we've always been guided by those principles opposing the beast of war in all forms. Recently in Portland, when it looked like we were going to war with Iran, when Trump started the bombing of Iran. We had Veterans for Peace and About Face and others. We called a demonstration. And Dan was there. And the demonstration was kind of small, right? It was like 40, 50 people. It was an emergency demonstration. It was one of those it was hard to get people out to. And then I remember there was a bunch of people kind of complaining, I wish there was more people. I wish there was more people. Why is it so small? But the way I felt at that demonstration was I didn't care that it was small. I knew that I was where I wanted to be. I knew that when a war was starting and at the precipice of Trump carrying out this outrageous action, I wanted to be in the streets. I wanted to be with other people who cared. It didn't matter if it was 40 people. It didn't matter if it was 1,000 people. I wanted to be with the people who cared, with ordinary people who refused to be silent. And that's why VFP has been so meaningful to me over the years. Now we stand, we were on the precipice of war with Iran then. Now we stand on many precipices. It's almost unbelievable, the pace and depth of what we are seeing, both internationally and domestically. All have implications for our work being a voice in American life. But in particular, and our most treasured responsibility, just not just turning the people of this country against the war machine, but those inside the military. The US is conducting a genocide. It is a horror beyond anything any of us probably could have ever imagined. We spent a year of seeing the worst images we thought imaginable of people being blown apart, which has now turned to images of starvation. And, I'm sure that none of us have really fully processed what the last 2 years have done to us as people. Why did Aaron Bushnell move us? Because we knew his despair. We felt that darkness. And he should be here. I think we would have known him if things had not been so dark. Other wonderful people here because of him. And that is the monument to his sacrifice. But at the same time, that darkness has led to a surge in consciousness among the military that we haven't seen in 20 years, since the early years of the Iraq War. Maybe it surpasses it, I don't know. We have around 200 people that we know of who have filed for conscientious objector since Gaza that specifically cited Gaza as the reason why. And those are just the people we know about. And many of those people have joined protests and done so much more, but what's significant about that is in the Iraq War era, the upsurge among active duty people in the military is because there's a pretty good chance you're going to go to Iraq and have to kill someone or die. And that was what was fueling the upsurge and the resistance and the COs and things like that. Today, if you were in the military, most likely you're not going to have to take part in anything going on in Gaza. And definitely you are not going to risk your own skin in any way. But this upsurge in consciousness is not because people are feeling like their own skin is on the line or that they are going to have to do something they don't want to do, but they understand that just wearing the uniform, they are part of something that they do not agree with. And I think, but historically, when you look at the work we've done over 40 years and more, that's something different. That's something a little different. It's kind of a new moment. I asked the former Maria Santelli, the former executive director of the GI Rights Hotline recently. I asked her, what was the single biggest day where you saw a spike in people calling the hotline to say, how do I get the hell out of the military? And I would have guessed it was the Black Lives Matter upsurge. I would have guessed it was the assassination of Soleimani, where we thought we were going to go to war with Iran, but it wasn't. She said the biggest single day where they got the most calls from service members wanting to get out of the military was after the news broke that the US had bombed the Doctors Without Borders hospital in Afghanistan. No one trying to get out, no one calling that line had anything to do with it, or was going to have to do it, or was going to die because of it. It was the association with that criminal act, letting people reflect and look at the mirror and see the uniform they are wearing and what it really represents. I think, imagine if when Trump started to try to, maybe start a war with Iran, but maybe not, peace president stuff, that could have easily escalated into a war. What do you think would have happened if we did enter into a big war with Iran? I think in large numbers of the US military would have refused to take part in that. And it's because of the work that you all have done and the foundation that you have laid that would have been able to respond to that crisis within the military. Domestically, of course, you have the military being led by open white supremacists carrying out a campaign of bigotry and racism within the ranks, which is not popular. People don't like Pete Hegseth. He's kind of a joke among active duty people right now. This guy's a freak. People don't like him. Even service members who are like normie, not super political service members, I think the number one thing on their minds is they swore an oath to the Constitution, and that looks like that is coming into big question with Trump as president. Unabashedly operating as a fascist. And not only that, but this week, kind of exposed that your commander-in-chief is a pedophile engaging in like the largest cover-up operation, a blatant cover-up operation possible for that, and that can't be good for morale. So these all create opportunities for us to reach people who are questioning their role in the whole thing. Of course, the illegal use of service members in support of these fascist ICE raids. We know that morale is in the toilet for those who have been deployed to Los Angeles and the border and things like that. My friends here from San Diego have been doing outreach like right outside the base in San Diego, and it's so inspiring to hear the conversations that they've been having with active duty people walking onto the base, many of whom come from immigrant families, that are being weaponized now against their own people. And now an entirely new wave of veterans is entering the movement, joining protests for the first time, specifically because of the ICE raids in Los Angeles and beyond. 40 years ago, those who were there, I think it would have been difficult to imagine the place we are now, and the severity of it, the seriousness of it, the darkness of it. It would have been hard to imagine that things would be so dark and seem so insurmountable. It is dark times, but in dark times, people look for light. VFP is a light, and it's time to carry the light back from this convention to our cities and towns and spread it wherever we can. Thank you.